Today, it's all about the GS Garage. I'm going to be sharing with you some of the tips I've learned in order to be able to make a successful pass. If you're not familiar with the Garage, it's a series of U-turns that get shorter and shorter as you work your way through the course. And if you are familiar with the Garage, I'm sure you've seen riders use many different riding styles as they do this. Some riders like to take their foot up off the foot peg in order to be able to get that bike to lean. Other riders will put their knee on that cylinder head and be able to get that bike to lean. Some riders stand up nice and straight and seem to be able to get it to move over. But in reality, all you really need to do is be able to feather that friction zone and counterbalance that bike in order to be able to do it. And we're going to show you how. The two biggest skills that helped me ride the Garage successfully was really mastering riding in that friction zone, being able to deliver and cut power as needed to keep the bike upright and turning. Okay, I'm going to make a pass through the Garage, not using any brakes, just feathering the clutch. Throttle's going to stay constant at 1200 RPMs. I'm not going to increase it. Clutch is in right now. I've cut power. Now I'm releasing that clutch out so the bike is under power. I pull the clutch in, disengage the power. Now I feed that clutch out so the bike has power. I pull the clutch all the way in. The bike is coasting. I'm on a slight downhill. I'm still got the clutch in. Now I feed the clutch out. Bike is under power. I pull the clutch in. Now I feed that clutch out ever so slowly. I pull the clutch in and I feed the clutch out. On this pass, I'm going to be combining the rear brake with the friction zone. So I'm going to come in, I'm going to gently apply that rear brake, clutch is in, and I'm feeding that clutch out. The rear brake is on, so the engine is pulling against the rear brake, adding some stability to the bike. You might need to increase your RPMs a little bit more, maybe 1400 to 1600 RPMs. Just a little bit of rear brake to create some drag for the engine to pull against. It also stiffens the suspension so that the bike is a little bit more stable. So I'm going to apply that brake to slow down. I'm going to feed that clutch out, release the brake now. And it's a balance between a little bit of rear brake and feathering that clutch out to pull against it. The other thing is to really work on the body positioning for when that bike is at full lock, being able to get my chest and head to the outside to counterbalance that bike as it's leaning. So working on getting the bike on the center stand and just transitioning from full lock turn to full lock turn and just getting a feel for how my body feels on top of the bike in order to be able to do that. So hip needs to be on the outside foot peg. As the hip comes over, the shoulder comes over, the outside elbow comes up, and don't forget to bring the head. So weight that outside foot peg, shoulder and head come with it. Begin that turn, weight that outside foot peg, lean that bike into the turn. Everybody has different ranges of flexibility and movability. All that really matters is if you're balanced on the bike and can ride the course. Because the Garage consists of a series of U-turns, you need to go from one turn to the other. So you need to be proficient with getting your body positioning from one lock turn, moving your body weight to the opposite side, turning, and getting those transitions to be nice and smooth. The figure eight is one of the best exercises for learning how to do that. The vision. So from here, I'm already looking at that next turn. Come over here, begin my turn. I'm already looking at that next turn. Focus on the ground, scan it, make sure it's okay. Now, focus on that last turn right there. Come over and look for the exit and ride out. The Garage is all about feathering that friction zone and getting your body weight to the outside of the bike for each turn. You don't need to get fancy with moving around excessively on the bike. The more movement on the bike, the more the suspension has to work. So if you can just feather that friction zone, get your body weight to the outside, and you can ride the course. The last component we need to talk about on the garage is line selection. Because each U-turn gets shorter and shorter as you go through this, if you make errors up front, you virtually have no room to make up for those errors and you can't finish the garage. So as you enter, you want to be to the far left as possible so that you have more room as you work your way through the course. So as you come in, my vision is focused right at the very far portion of this corner. I'm scanning for rocks that might upset the front tire, loose sand that might be in the turn, so that if as I turn, I might need to get my body weight more on that front tire to keep grip. And right about here, as I approach, I've got enough rolling momentum, I'll probably disengage the clutch, maybe apply a little bit of rear brake. And now that I'm here, I've scanned this area, my eyes are focused on that next corner where I want the bike to go. As I now roll off the feathering of the clutch, feed that clutch out so the bike has power. As I've leaned the bike over into the turn, I'm feeding that clutch out. My focus is on that far corner there. Now there's just a very slight uphill here on this course, so I need to maybe increase the RPMs a little bit more, release that rear brake if I haven't engaged. And now I'm back into my neutral standing riding posture, and I'm focusing on getting my body positioning to be able to counterbalance that bike as I come through. So again, it's just repeat again. Now that I'm here, I'm already focusing on the next corner that I want to get to. The bike is at maximum lean right about here, so I'm letting more of that clutch out so it has power to power through. And as the bike stands up, I want to work back on getting into my neutral posture, and we repeat again. Now, this is where it starts to get really tricky after this last turn, because we're at 7.5 meters, 6.5. Now we're down to 5.5 meters. So we need to be very accurate in getting the bike as far over here as possible so that when we get to that last exit, again, we have enough space as we come around here to be able to get to this spot to be able to do that U-turn. The garage is a fun course to ride once you have all of those fundamentals of feathering the clutch, counterbalancing, and you put it all together, and that first time you get through that last exit is such fun. So go out, practice the feathering, work on the body transitions with starting with big figure eights and work on getting them smaller and smaller. If you try and just do this without practicing those fundamental steps, it can be quite frustrating because that last turn is very hard to get. So go out, give it a try, and let us know how you do.